Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ask ServiceMonster show, where you've got questions for your service business and we've got your answers. Today, I want to touch on a book, Cliff Notes, EMyth Revisited. It was in the top 10 lists of books I wanted you to read if you're a service provider, which Michael will display the link at the comments on the show notes. So dive into that if you want to. It's just a quick list of 10 books. But over the last few weeks or months, I've been deep diving into business books. You guys know I don't read. I'm dyslexic. So, of course, when I say I read huge amounts of technical data and text all day long, and of course, Facebook and so forth. But I don't sit down with a book. That's difficult for me because it's not the fastest way for me to assimilate data. Audio, though, is another way to get things done. And Audible has an amazing program. Books are like 10 to maybe 25 bucks a pop, and you can just listen to it on your drive, especially for service providers as you're driving around. If you're not utilizing that downtime, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So I would encourage you to take that leap. I know a lot of you guys, if you don't read, then you don't start jumping into those business books. So I want you to do that. What I'm going to do, occasionally throw Cliff Notes your way, because I'm going through these books at a quick pace. And what happens is I get a lot of questions over Messenger. And those questions, I can usually point them to a video we've already done. But a lot of times now what I'm doing is I'm also pointing them to a book. And recently, a lot of the book recommendations have been EMyth Revisited. So I want to touch on it here, kind of go over these Cliff Notes, get you enticed, and hopefully pick it up and listen to it. Written by Michael Gerber in 1990, the revision is in 2004. EMyth Revisited: Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What You Can Do About It. The first thing I want to touch on has to do with wearing many hats. In the book, it identifies three key roles: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And most of the business owners that I know as service providers start out as a technician. Someone who's able to do the work, the hourly job. They understand that, right? The cleaning itself, that craft. Now, the manager position seems a little bit foreign, but as their business grows, they have to start to pick up leadership skills. You're going to start to get employees. If you want to grow, you've got to put in more billable hours, and the only way to do that is bring people in to help you. That management level is foreign for a lot of you guys. It's a struggle. How do you find the right people? What copy do you use? How do you bring them in? How do you get them to adapt to culture? All things that I've spoken about, but the book really does a good job of kind of setting up the framework to understanding what you need to do in that role. And of course, the third role is entrepreneur. Now, most business owners went through some sort of temporary entrepreneurial seizure when they decided, starting a business is a great idea. And then, of course, they realize the struggle and work that goes into it to really get it off the ground. That's why 80% don't make it past year 5. But do you really have the entrepreneur thought process? Are you putting in systems to the systems? Do you have accountability in place? Do you know where you're going? Are you building on your franchise prototype? So another important concept within the book is franchise prototype. It's building your business in such a way where that you could copy it in multiple locations. Now, the point here is not to build a franchise. That's not the point of the exercise. And in fact, 99.9 to the 99s will never do so, and that's okay. But setting yourself up properly, like a franchise prototype, is going to make things so much easier. Define your end goal. How big could you get in your area given your current demographics and service offerings? Define that, and then reverse engineer the team that it would take to get there. What does that look like? Build that organizational chart. Create duties and job descriptions for each of those positions. Now, really what you'll start getting into is building systems about systems, right? You can build a standard operating procedure of how to clean the carpet, but how do you define your culture or deal with accountability and auditing? That requires systems about systems. This stuff doesn't have to be boring. You can gamify it. You can make it short. You can use cards and binders and all kinds of fun ways to get the employees engaged, but to get what you want out of it, which is consistent results across the board. And you're really not concerned about the skill levels of the people you're plugging in, as long as they're bought into the system and they're working the program. Now, the EMyth goes into a business development program that consists of a handful of parts. What's your primary aim? This is like life stuff, right? This isn't focused on your business. What is your aim as a human being in your life? What do you want your life to mean? Number 2, your strategic objective. This has to do with your business. What is your exit strategy? How far do you want to grow it? Do you want to keep it forever? Is it going to be a cash generator? How is that strategic objective going to support your primary objective? Number 3, what's your organizational strategy? Literally, like the structure of the business, whatever school you belong to. How is that put together, and what are the roles and responsibilities of the people therein? What's your management strategy? Have you ever thought about that? Like, what kind of manager and management structure within your company do you want? You want to be militant, tyrannical? Probably not. So defining it and doing things intentionally is always a good idea. What's your people strategy? How do you make things fun and engaging? It isn't enough anymore just to give somebody a paycheck. You've got to get them involved in a program, have them chasing a goal that they're into. What's your marketing strategy? We talk about this a lot, and I know that you think about it a lot. Lead acquisition and sales. What are some ways that you can have partnerships in your geographic area to make things accelerate? There's all kinds of fun ways to approach that, but yeah, as a high point, you need to know what your marketing strategy is and what your overall arc of how you're going to get that information and attention to your prospects. And what's your system strategy? Do you have a plan for each one of your systems? You know you have hard systems, soft systems, and information systems. So hard systems are going to be like your equipment and chemicals, right? Do you have redundancy? What's your maintenance plan look like? Do you know how much life is on that equipment that you're using? How much life do you have left? Are you just kind of guessing and hoping things don't break down? Soft systems have to do with attitude and ethics and the people and how all that stuff works together. Do you have a strategy for approaching that? And of course, my favorite, information systems. Isn't limited to the CRM that you should definitely have, but also training programs. So lots of useful information in this book and can definitely get your mind straight. The author goes through a story talking about a woman who has a pie shop in her local area. And she's struggling, finds it hard to even think about the fact that she wanted to have a business in the first place. Things are not going well for her. But over time, this discussion through her business and how the EMyth is positioned really helps give you clarity and understanding how you can apply some of those principles to your own business. And incidentally, the EMyth isn't E or internet or I, it's entrepreneur. It was written in 1990, 5 years before the internet was even around. So all in all, I say a pretty solid book, and one that I have suggested to a number of new business owners or business owners who are struggling with their small businesses. So ending here with 3 thoughts from Mr. Gerber. Number 1, how small business owners often make the fatal mistake that just because you're good at the technical aspect doesn't mean you can actually run a business. Number 2, everyone who goes into business has to be 3 people simultaneously: the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And number 3, if you're unwilling to change, your business is never going to give you what you want. Until next time, guys, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go check out the demo, and give us a call.